Okay. Sandra Iskandar is an architect and artist who has agreed to do a series of drawing lessons with the TFN juniors, starting with Bloodroot. Bloodroot is early spring ephemeral that we all love and look forward to seeing in has beautiful shaped leaves. And so we're very excited about Sandra helping us to learn to draw it and also as a tool for nature journaling. So thank you, Sandra.
You're welcome, Anne. I'm really, really excited to be doing this with yourself and the group. And I'm actually going to give you a little bit of background on the wild bloodroot as well as a starting point on nature journaling. So what you're going to need for this exercise is a few things. You're going to need some pencils of different softness, and I'm showing here a 1B, a B, a 2B, and a 3B, and you can also add an HB and a 1H, so it goes from softer to harder. So the B is softer, and as you move towards the H, it gets harder and harder. So I have here, the ones that I like to use are actually, you can see here, this is my set that I got at Above Ground, and it ranges from all my H's to my B's. So I have 4H all the way to 8H. So any that you can get your hands on really helps to draw and to define as you go along with the sketching. So I'm showing here a piece of paper, but I would recommend something that has a thicker tooth. And what I mean by a thicker tooth is that it's more of a cardboard. This is a Canson watercolor paper. And the reason I like that is because, for example, this is the bloodroot that I drew. It lasts a long time and it really keeps it protected rather than just drawing on paper, because this one was drawn on paper and it doesn't last as long. So some paper would be great. If you have a sketchbook, that's also encouraged. I have here another sketchbook. This sketchbook is a Strathmore sketchbook, and the pages are a lot softer. So it's not bad if you're going to do lots and lots of sketches, but if you're going to do one main sketch, I would recommend something that's thicker. So this one is the one that I recommend. It's not very expensive, and the size is 7 by 10. So that's a nice size to be sketching and nature journaling. And I've torn the pages out. You can see I took all the pages out, but you can leave them in. It's really up to you. I like to remove them and make reference to them. And in terms of pencil crayons, so this is a sketching workshop where we're mixing pencil crayons, meaning graphite, along with colored pencils. So this could be Prismacolor. So this is my collection. And with the particular bloodroot, we actually will need a lot of greens and yellows and some browns, some grays. So I would pick through here. I'm going to pick the colors that I would use. So I'm picking all the greens that I have. And I'm also going to pick some grays and some mustard. I have an umber here. I have an evergreen. And you look at the picture and you see which colors will actually help you to select as you go along. So I have a lot of colors here that I've chosen, and I may choose some more, but that's what I do. I pick through them, and then when I start working, I may choose to pick a few more. And a pencil crayon sharpener. So I have a sharpener here. This is one of my favorites because it has a little hole. It's circular, has a little hole, and it has a big hole here. So the big hole actually makes the pencil more shallow, and the little hole makes the pencil a lot longer. So I have an example. This is the shallow end versus the really long end here. You see the difference?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So those are the 4 things. I actually wanted to add one more. If you have a mechanical pencil, this is one thing that I like to use as well when you get into the detail, because your pencil crayon, your graphite pencils won't get too sharp. You can't get into the details. So if you look closely at this, there's a lot of detail work that went into the roots and up here into the leaf. So I like to also include a mechanical pencil. So we'll move to the next slide. One more thing is make sure that all your pencils are sharpened. So the ones that you've selected, take the time to sharpen them as you before you begin. So let's move to the next slide. So this is a collage of the bloodroot. It's actually a beautiful flower that I've come to discover in the spring. It was the first flower that came through. And there was a lot of it. Where we are, we discovered some patches of it. And it starts off with this gigantic leaf that emerges out of the ground, and it's clasping the actual flower before the flower comes out. So this is showing the flower sort of poking through, ready to open. It's just, it's a wonderful thing to witness. Sorry, Anne?
No, it's lovely. It's such a beautiful pose. It reminds me of a dancer.
It is.
Yeah, it's really lovely.
Yeah. So the bloodroot is made up of, I'm showing here 4 parts. We have the root, which is horizontal to the grade. And then we have these 2 stems and the leaf that we showed earlier. So the leaf will come up as well as the flower will emerge. And this is a microscopic view of the seed pod. And you can see that there's a lot of them. And that's what comes in, that gets distributed into the ground. So that shows where the seed pods, how the seed pods get distributed. I guess these are the seeds that come out of the seed pod.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So this little juice that comes out of the little seed is quite interesting. And I'm not going to try to pronounce this, ileosum. So I've collected some for me, it's very inspirational botanical watercolors as well. This is the bloodroot, and that dates back probably to 100 years ago. And botanical watercolors were really popular at the time. They showed the different parts of the whatever it was that they were trying to communicate with quite accuracy, and it was a way to educate. So they were used for educational purposes. And this is probably a type of print, linoblock print that was multiplied many times. And so you can see the horizontal root at the bottom, and then you can see the huge leaf that would have wrapped the flower, and the flower sort of emerges through. So the slide on the right shows the evolution, you know, how it sort of grows, how the leaf grows together with the flower. And it's just so interesting that the root is horizontal like that. I love that, this here. And it's red, which is why it's called the bloodroot, because it's red. So this is, there's a few examples of botanical photography. This is showing the root being cut in half, showing the red meat. And there's a few slides showing the what nature journaling is, you may ask. And here is a perfect example of what nature journaling is. It's describing the environment. So it's not just drawing the element itself, but also describing everything that's around, all of the observations before you forget. Because when you go out into nature, you may photograph, you may walk through, but you may forget a lot of it. So that's why nature journaling is so wonderful, because you go back and it's a different way of learning as well. So I just love this arrangement. And so much like this book here, you would start on one side. I love the way that he shows the leaf here, the close-up. So this is the large leaf. But this person shows the tree. What did the tree look like? It says here, this tree is really growing crooked. Its leaves really shake in the wind. It's a poplar, I think. So, and I don't think there's any right or wrong with nature journaling. It's very much like writing your own sort of journal, personal journal. This is another wonderful example of, I guess you could call this nature journaling. I think it's watercolor and pen and ink, and the drawing and the observations. There's a date here, bright and sunny with fluffy clouds, morning and doves. I just think this is so beautiful, the way that it's sort of all arranged together.
I love the way the notes there, I don't know if it's a man or a woman, but her notes there kind of evoke the atmosphere of what it was like for her.
Yeah.
Or the artist, I mean.
Sorry, Alexi's not here, he's with his dad. He'll be back. Sorry about that. That's going to have to be chopped off.
That's okay. No problem. Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, I love how she depicts the mood here, or he, whoever.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful. So this is another quite advanced version of a nature journaling. It's a hand that's very experienced. This person is using also very thin markers and some watercolors, but she could also use some pencil crayons as well. Silver, maple falling, little notes here. It's just a wonderful skill to have because it tells the whole story. So this is really cute too. Day one, so somebody's observing something over the course of 5 days. Maybe you're able to tell Anne what it is, but I don't know if it's a flower that's blooming or something, maybe mushrooms. I think it's great.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful to see all the different strategies you can have in nature journaling. You can focus on one item and then paint the environment around it, or you can look at the same thing multiple days in a row. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, and here this person is actually including the dimensions of the mushroom. So 2 centimeters by 7 centimeters, the stem, and a strong line here, which basically describes day number 2. There's a little view here, almost like a film that's being produced. It's just watching a film unravel. Some questions, did it really drop? Anyways, it's great. And this person actually has numbered the pages. So let's move on to the drawing exercise. Are we ready, Anne?
Yes, I've got all my materials. I'm ready to go.
Yay. Wonderful. So I'm going to be drawing with the group as well, as much as possible. And I have my setup here. I have my paper, my pencils, my pencil crayon sharpener, and no erasers, because this is a sketching workshop. No erasers are really required. So, like we've done in the past, I've basically numbered the steps to help to shape, to help to format the composition. So in this composition in particular, we have more of a, I would say it's a vertical composition. So your sheet, I would put your sheet vertically rather than horizontally like that. Okay. So we have, I put here A, B, C, D, E, F shapes that we're going to start to help us to shape this thing. So at the very bottom of your page, draw A on a kind of an angle like that. And when you draw the A shape, draw it very lightly. So use maybe an HB or an H. So you don't want to draw it too dark. You just want to create some placeholders. So here is my A here. Did you do your AN?
Yes, I've got that done.
Okay, great. So now in the opposite direction, we're going to do B, and the B is going to be a little bit more squat than the A.
Sandra, do you turn your paper so that it's easy to orient these shapes?
You can do that, yes. Yes, you can do that if it helps, yes. So the next one is C, which is this sort of this big sweeping circle to capture the angle of the stem, and that's the stem for the leaf that emerges before the flower does. So if your circle doesn't fit in the page, that's okay. It's just to capture. So this is what I did. My circle basically ends. Okay? And then we move on to D. So it's a similar gesture, but the D is actually a little bit closer to the left. And try to follow the flower is lower than the leaf. So just look at your subject matter and try to create. So I have the second one here. And it can be feathery. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle the way that this image shows it. It's okay if you just sort of feather the line. It's just to guide you when it comes time to actually drawing the bloodroot. So a little circle, place a little circle for the letter E at the top. So here we go. And then our last letter is the F, and the F is about twice the size as the E. And that's where the flower is. Oops. So I'm going to go back to the beginning of this slideshow, if it's okay, to show the subject matter without the circles. So this is what we're drawing, and we're all going to draw from that. And I'm going to be a little quiet if there's. Do you have any questions, Anne?
No, but it's very interesting to me that I'm noticing things because I'm drawing it. Like,
yes,
I hadn't realized that the leaf is actually turned away from us. Like I'm looking at the back of the leaf. I'm looking at the veins, which is very cool.
What weight of pencil are you using?
Mine is HB2, I think. This one here was what I was using, HB2.
Okay.
So I think it feels a little darker than like a normal
Yes.
pencil.
Well, the idea is to kind of start a little bit lighter and then work your way to a darker.
I'm seeing colors I'd like to use now that I'm doing it too, which is cool.
That's great. That's wonderful. The flower is absolutely beautiful and the angle is so nice. We're seeing a lot of really, really interesting insects here.
Oh, wow, that's fun. Wow, that's really cool.
They're like prehistoric type insects I don't see in Toronto.
Well, you know what? You guys should send them in. I would love to put a post on the site.
Sure.
I just love posting anything cool like that.
Yeah, I mean, we saw something that looked like a little turtle, but it was obviously an insect.
Now, do you have a camera or do you use your phone or?
Oh, I just use my phone. My daughter has a better phone than me.
Our phone cameras are pretty good. Yeah, no, I find it really cool to share those kind of things.
Absolutely
gives us such an opportunity to research about it and learn about it, and then everybody else can look for it as well.
Well, this gold moth was really interesting to me.
Oh yeah, that was beautiful.
I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, and it was interesting that it specifically, in my book about moths, it specifically mentioned the gold.
Really?
Shimmering, yeah. It's I believe even among the moths, it's unusual.
Yeah. Why is it gold like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I know that a lot of colors in nature have to do with like the orientation of the of some of the structures that reflect or refract the light. They're all like there's two different classes of pigments, and that's kind of at the molecular level. They determine what's absorbed and what's reflected, but it's also the actual physical structure changes and makes it possible for living things to have a lot more colors. So yeah, it's really it's very interesting.
Wow, I love that.
Well, as an artist, I mean, one of the most amazing things I learned, I think, was that what we actually see is reflected light. And so the thing that we see is that the thing that we're looking at is actually all the colors except the color we see. Yeah. It has absorbed all the colors except the one we see. And the one we see is the one it's reflecting. It's not absorbing, right? It's not actually taking in.
Well,
so that's a strange way to think about it, right?
Yeah, somebody was saying that, I read somewhere that the blue jay is actually not blue.
Right.
It's just the way that the light is reflected on its...
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm actually drawing the leaves, not the petals of the flower now. And I'm using the circle to help me understand
the size, right?
Boundaries, yes.
Sandra, when you sketch, so we are, our sketch is going to have, like, it will have the pencil outline, right? That would be, expected in like for most artists, that the pencil
Sorry,
you leave
can you
it, right?
repeat the question? I didn't hear.
So the pencil, when you're drawing, you would expect the pencil outline to remain. You don't erase the pencil outline.
Yes, and furthermore, sometimes I use I go further deeper and I use a fine liner. So, for example,
to make it even more pronounced.
Actually, in all of this, I actually did go in and use a fine liner.
Okay, so that sort of deepens the
yes.
the color.
Yes, and I think that's how they do it with the botanical drawings, because it's quite technical. It depends what you want to get out of it. If you want it to be a bit more accurate, like that print, the lino print that we looked at, then you do it that way. But if you want it to be a bit more dreamy and interpretive, so to speak, you don't have to do it. You don't have to use the fine liner.
I'm finding it interesting to get the right shade of green.
Oh, you're already going into your color?
Well, I've got the petals drawn and I've got the leaf drawn.
Yeah, well, this is where I'm at now. Can you see?
Okay. Yeah, I can see it just vaguely, but yeah. Yeah, there's so many different colors of green on those, on the leaf. It's amazing.
It's beautiful colors.
As an architect, do you study color theory, Sandra?
Oh yeah, yes we do, but you know, not to the extent of form and shape and line.
Yeah.
But it's definitely part of the.
Because being an architect it's a form of art, really, isn't it?
Yes, it is, and you know, your interests are definitely very close to the arts because it's aesthetic.
Mm-hmm. I think the nice thing is if you buy a set of like pencil crayons, it's sort of all one like set. I imagine they have it organized so that it's so that they're in families. The things that
yeah,
paint chips in a paint store, so that you could sort of know if you're going in the right direction, doing something darker that but similar, darker but in the same family.
Absolutely. And you know, there's some really nice. You can get some sets that are student quality that are a bit more affordable, and typically the pencils are harder, but you can get higher quality pencils that are softer and they have more pigment. So when you're actually drawing, it's just more enjoyable to work with. There is a difference between artist quality and student quality. But a lot of the time I end up using half the colors that come in those standard sets. And I have to buy each certain colors individually again. And you can do that.
Now, Sandra, how do you do the color of the flower? Because the flower is white, so it's going to be outlined by the pencil. Do you actually use color to, like white pencil crayons to get that color, or?
I wouldn't use white. No, I would just use the white from the paper.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you use white, you'll probably end up smudging. I would draw in the details. So what I did here in this this drawing, I ended up just adding in some details, and the focus is really the yellow. But if you're able to do a little bit of shading, it's hard to tell from that.
Shading around the edge of the leaves to give it
Yes.
the shape. Oh.
Yeah. And then behind the yellow, what do you call that? The yellow, the center of the flower.
Yeah, the kind of reproductive parts.
Yes, there's a little bit of shading there. So I would, it's quite difficult to do.
It's
but
actually,
I would,
you know, in some ways in this particular photo, it's important to do a little bit of the background, isn't it? Like the trunk of the tree.
yes, if you like, yes. But the focus is really the flower. So I wouldn't put too much detail of the trunk. If you want to put some dark background, sure, by all means.
Oh, and now I'm just looking at the shapes between the petals and thinking, is that what the, have I got that right?
Well, I love doing this. This is so much fun for me.
Well, you know, we're going away to our conservation property where we manage, we look after things there. And I think I'm going to get a sketchbook and try to spend some time, some hours there.
You should, Anne.
Like I've always taken notes. Like I've always had sort of a journal, but it's just been very, not a journal, but just sort of a record. So
yes.
I've just written things down. But I think what I'd like to do is do more actual drawing, because I can't believe how much I see.
Well,
when I'm examining this for the purpose of drawing it, I see so much more. I think one of the things is taking the time. Like, it's so easy to take the time when I'm sitting here doing this with you. Like, it's very pleasant to do it with a friend, you know?
Yes.
And I think that just having the patience to sort of do it myself is part of the challenge, I think.
Well, that's why people like to do it with others. It's important. People won't do this alone. Even if you're two, the way that we are right now. But if I were alone doing this and recording it, it would be more challenging, I think.
Yes, for sure.
So how are you making out, Anne? Are you?
I'm just putting in a little bit of shading of the tree now in the background to sort of highlight the flower. And actually, I quite like it.
This was Alexi's sketch, and the emphasis I made last time was that, you know, he took some liberties. I think this composition is actually really beautiful, but it's really coming from himself. Right. And I love that about children's drawings, and I try to push that. So this is less of a realist approach, but it's equally as valid in terms of a piece of art or a drawing. The proportion is actually perfect here, and the pieces are accurate. You know, these, I think these are the leaves, the stem, that's the leaf, the flower. It's just wonderful and really whimsical. Let's see what's the next slide. Oh, okay. No, that's another botanical drawing, but there's a little bit of interpretation and some exaggeration that's happened here. Okay. It's not quite abstract, but it's actually really, really beautiful.
Right.
So
they've sort of emphasized something that they appreciated about the flower.
Yes. Yeah. There's a little bit of drama. The veins are accentuated here. The contrast is actually very exaggerated here.
Right.
The leaves are, I think, pretty realistic. And I find that this beige background really makes a difference. It does. There's a French term for it. It's called mi-teinte, which means halftone. So it sort of, it helps to it helps for the subject matter to pop out rather than drawing on a white page.
Maybe that's what I'm doing a little bit, putting the trunk of the tree in behind mine.
Exactly. On this slideshow, I don't have any more slides. That's it. That's
Okay.
the end.
Okay, well, that's great, Sandra. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure, Anne.
Yeah, and it'll be really exciting to see any submissions that we get from people that use the slides.
Yes.
And try
absolutely.
drawing the Bloodroot. So thank you so much, and I hope we get a chance to do another one at some point.
Well, thanks for the opportunity. It was lots of fun.
Okay, see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.